Ladies and gentlemen, people are talking about President Trump invoking martial law or the Insurrection Act, and possibly that could be because of essays like the one written at George Mason University. George Mason University condemns student essay. You can look it up for yourself. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. In a couple of seconds, you will see with your own eyes the utter hypocrisy of the wonderful, morally superior Democratic Party that thinks Trump is a despot and an authoritarian and totalitarian. Number one, I'll give you a 20-second recap of what's going on regarding the Insurrection Act or martial law or the recent George Mason University student essay. And then you will see the legal analysis, or you'll listen to Josh Hawley talk about the violence after the Dobbs decision. And, of course, we'll go back in time with billions upon billions in property damage. You will see some of it in a second. 1 to 2 billion in uninsured damages. And then how many billion in insured? 1 to 2 billion dollars in insured damages nationally, and then billions in uninsured in Trump's last year in office. But really quickly, ladies and gentlemen, the George Mason University essay that could be a hallmark or an embodiment of this angst within the Democratic Party. Number one, it's an essay that asks when must we end essentially President Trump, Trump supporters, conservatives, Republicans, anyone who disagrees with the morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats. When must we end them? Okay. Number two, the points made in the essay are completely almost fabricated. They're absurd, outlandish leaps of logic, which is what has to take place if you're a wonderful, morally superior, left-leaning advocate to defend the indefensible. So, number two, it's somewhat written as if it's like a founding document, and it accuses Trump of this and that, and his administration of this and that, and his ideology or his, and Trump wants to end endless wars, wants to enforce immigration laws, wants to rebuild the middle class with tariffs, which is what President Obama and Bernie Sanders ran on. But anyway, it accuses Trump of committing all of these acts of aggression. It does so in an absurd leap of logic. Every accusation of Trump within the George Mason essay is a textbook case on leaps of logic, logical fallacies, absurd and outlandish innuendo. So nothing is real. It's almost as if you're, playing Dungeons and Dragons and you're, in the 1980s rolling dice, and, it's a fantasy world. The problem, however, is the following. Hit subscribe to this channel. Trump could, God forbid, invoke that type of situation if this takes place again from the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats. This is just one scene. We don't have to play it. This is just one scene that took place. We're not just talking about Tesla. We're not just talking about I think what happened to George Floyd is an atrocity. I don't think it was moral. I don't think it was warranted what took place after. Billions in property damage. 1 to 2 billion in insured damages, billions more in uninsured damages. But listen to this.
Congressman, welcome back. First, your reaction to this violence, which is not just in Minneapolis. It spread to various cities across the country. We saw it in Los Angeles last 2 nights ago, and then there was some unrest in New York and Phoenix. Your reaction?
Yeah, Brian, first of all, it was just disturbing watching the video of what happened to George Floyd. We all mourn his loss, and justice needs to be served there. But just going out and destroying cities is not an answer.
So Democrats don't have functioning primaries. So number 3, point 3 that I'm going to make, they don't have functioning primaries. So what they do is the Democratic Party foments left-leaning political action committees or activists to go after Tesla, to engage in this type of behavior where there's billions in property damage, and CNN says it's mostly peaceful. Okay, so this is the problem with the Democratic Party and left-leaning advocates. They can't legislate. Their ideas are not popular nationwide. They know that most Americans are not going to pay higher taxes for single payer. They know it's not even feasible. Like Bernie Sanders knows it's not feasible on a nationwide scale. That's why he just accepted the fact that he was cheated in 2016, which gets us back to they cheat their candidates. Bernie Sanders was cheated in 2016. Biden was forced out in 2024. They don't have functioning primaries. They don't legislate. They just pass enormous spending bills and omnibus bills and spending packages, but they don't actually give Dreamers citizenship. They can easily, and I want that. They can easily, and this would never work, but they can go and say, we're going to push for legislation to keep undocumented immigrants in the country, and prevent any president from deporting them. They're not going to pass any legislation in Congress because they know they're not going to push for any legislation or run on that in 26 because they know that it's not popular nationwide and they would lose the popular vote by an even greater margin. They're not going to run on single payer, Green New Deal, immigration. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to fund USAID projects that perhaps that perhaps do help people around the world through foreign aid packages in Congress. They don't have the House or the Senate. Yes, fine, but they can still run on it and push legislation. They don't want to do that because it's not popular, okay, nationwide, because they know that the spotlight, like Elon Musk and Doge and Trump and others have stated, will go back to the non-governmental organizations that get money being funneled from taxpayer dollars through USAID. But let's listen to this.
To that, let's push for justice to be served. And you see
the mayor says, I'm going to call in the National Guard. Twitter doesn't like what he said, so they put some disclaimers on there. This hours after he put together an executive order.
So you have the mayor of one city calling for the National Guard. What do you think President Trump would do if, God forbid, this type of thing took place on a nationwide scale yet again? This is Josh Hawley talking about what happened to Catholic churches, to churches throughout the country under Biden's administration. This is the Democratic Party who, doesn't like violence.
One of my colleagues on the other side said, weaponization may well occur under your tenure. We all know that weaponization has occurred like we've never seen before in American history under this administration. And I want to get even more specific. In the last 4 years, this administration has carried out an unprecedented attack and campaign against people of faith. If you look at the numbers, we've never seen anything like it before in American history. It has been one of the most disgraceful chapters in the history of the Justice Department and in the history of the FBI. And I hope that you will reverse this and do right by every American citizen, including especially people of faith. Let me give you some specifics. After the Dobbs case was decided by the Supreme Court, over 100 pregnancy care centers and over 300 churches in this country were attacked, vandalized, firebombed. Do you happen to know off the top of your head how many prosecutions Merrick Garland's Justice Department brought in those cases?
I do not, Senator.
It's a stunning number. It's 2. Hundreds of churches, hundreds of pregnancy care centers. And I might just add, these pregnancy care centers, the attacks on them, which were violent, which were gruesome, were egged on and encouraged by rhetoric from members of Congress, including members of this body, who have said that pregnancy care centers aren't real medicine, that they're not real doctors. They have legitimized these attacks. And the same thing was true of churches. And this Justice Department couldn't lift a finger to defend these Americans. But at the same time, they used legislation, a law known as the FACE Act.
So the violence, mayhem, chaos overwhelmingly comes from left of center, the Democratic Party, that ideology, leftist ideology. This is not even up for debate. Any statistic or data that shows otherwise ignores the reality of billions upon billions in property damage 4 years ago, Dobbs decision, Tesla. We can go on forever. A random maniac is not on the right if he commits a mass atrocity. That's the mentality of Democrats. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. I'll be back in a couple of hours. This is huge.